of you will join. Let me tell you a little bit about our next guest, Megan. I am so honored and thrilled to have Megan Perry joining us today. She is a super rock star of creating viral content online. She is a multi-hyphenate talent, a writer, actor, producer, and social media maven who has been in the entertainment industry for over 15 years. You may know her as Heather the Vampire. If you don't, I'll let her tell you a little bit about that, and you can go discover some of her early viral videos for YouTube, which are spectacular. And she has worked for companies like doing Tastemade, and she has created pilots and sold and created pilots and features to Sony, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, and is a freelance writer for MSN.com. Her acting credits include VH1's I Hate My 30s, Dawson Creek, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I could go on and on and on. But we are going to dive into talking to Megan about storytelling for an online audience. Megan, welcome.
Thank you, Maymay. I sound amazing.
I mean, that's because you are. I didn't even get to like your podcast. Like I was completely obsessed with your podcast, Your Mama, listened to every single episode. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I wish we were still doing your mama, but we've moved on. We've moved on.
I would like to say too, just to take a moment to say, I know you are in LA and the fires have been raging this week and our hearts are just bleeding for what is going on there. Are you guys okay? Is everything all right?
We're very lucky. We're totally okay. We're in the middle of the city. We're sort of surrounded, but w weirdly, we are very safe. Yeah, so this is a great distraction from this particular story. I will say that. But yeah, it's been a weird, 72 hours, guys. Real weird. But yeah, and there's lots of ways, just FYI, to help. And there'll be a lot of that, I think, on my social media and everyone you know is social media. And I know a lot of you guys on this call are also impacted by this, and you know people who are. So my heart also goes out to everyone else.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to be here
Yeah,
in the midst of everything.
absolutely.
So, Megan, I would love to just dive in right away to some of your key takeaways for what makes an engaging story.
That's really interesting. Well, I always think, like, listen, I work in a lot of different modalities, right? A lot of different, in a different places, storytelling in different places. And I think the thing that has always come first for me with story is character, right? So I think you can kind of tell stories from many different angles, right? But even when you're writing something for MSN.com, or if you're writing your memoir, or you're telling your own personal story, the characters are what is going to send the story off and moving, and what those characters end up doing in certain situations. So you've got the character, and then you've sort of got the situation, right? So it's funny. I remember one time an agent, a very early agent of mine, I came in with a script and he said, "Okay, well, why did you write this script?" And I was like, I thought it was such a cool idea. It's such a cool idea." And he was like, "Great. Then what?" Right? So, and now as I've kind of gotten older, I'm a little bit more of two minds there, right? Like, sort of like, I think you do have to have a cool idea, right? But how are you going to send these characters through this cool idea? And where does that land? So I think I start with character. I think that's a great place to start. And I think the next thing is, well, what do those characters do and what's the story you're going to tell? So I can
Can you walk us through an example of that with a character and story that you have loved that is from your own creation, from your own brain?
Yeah, so let's see. What's the easiest way to sort of describe this? Okay, here's a good one. Um, I wrote something, it's not out in the world yet, but it's called The Illusionist, and it's about a maid in Victorian England, right? And the story is, there is a famous magician in Victorian England, and he's the Houdini of his time. Um, but what's really going on is it's actually this woman who is acting as his maid, who is the magician, but he has to be the face of it, right? Okay, so that's a cool story, right? That's a cool story. Um, but what's her story? She's the main character. Where did she come from? What are her hopes and wants and dreams? So weaved into this like cool story is, she's trying to get her family to England. She's trying to make sure that her community and her sex are sort of represented in the world. She's trying to find a child that she gave birth to years and years ago. So she has her own personal story within this really super fun idea that's, sellable and cool and fun, right? So that's it. So when you sit down and you can kind of start either. I always start with character, but you can start either way. Like I got a cool idea or I got a great character. Um, but how those two mesh is really, I think, what makes content push forward. And you can do that, I work a lot of like in unscripted television as well. And even in that, when you're sort of handed that footage and told to make a story out of it, you kind of need to work in those two areas there as well, right? You've got these real life characters who are put into these situations, how those characters react in those situations are what's going to get you through that story. Yeah, I think that's where those two things blend.
Kiran, did you have a question?
Ooh, I have a question first, Megan. It's so good to see you.
Hi,
Uh,
Karan.
we
Karan.
we have talked story a lot, and we need to do it again.
Yeah.
In fact, Megan and I go back a long time with a lot of stories. Even with Kyle too, we were creating a story for a branded content story for
That's
Ogilvy back then.
that's
Remember that as
right.
well?
That's
Yeah.
right.
So we have.
Yes.
And so I wanted to ask because we come from that same world. There's two things. One, what you brought up, where you have to have a marketable element to get it across to
Yes.
be green lit. And so it's almost like that's the candy, but you
Yes.
want to get the green vegetables in there as well. Like you have to have both of those things. So I would love to hear you talk about that. And then the second thing, if you can hold that into your head too, because you're a storyteller, is
Sure.
um, what are the themes that you feel like if you look back at the stuff that you've written and the stuff that you created that just keep coming up? Because I remember when we were early talking about it was things of identity, which you just sort of brought up.
Yeah. Um, okay, so to answer your first question, yeah, okay, so something I think, when we talk about sort of talent versus, the sort of hard work involved with writing, right? I do tend to have a knack for I got a great title, I got a great scenario, I got a cool idea, right? And what I've had to work on is that like yeah, but what pushes that story forward and what so that's where my work has come in, right? That's not what I was always great at. I was always like all my boyfriend's girlfriends, ex-boyfriend joy, this is sellable, this is I got nothing, underneath it I got nothing. So that's what I've sort of had to work on. But you're right, Karan, to your point, like when you are, oh my gosh, especially like in the viral video space, right? Like people ask me all the time, and I know when you and I were working together, that was a big question for Ogilvy. Is like, well, how does something go viral?
Right.
And the answer to that question, 10 years ago is very different from now, right? But content is key online. And the catchy content, of course, is key. But what makes people come back for more of the same content online is the relatability of the characters, right? So if you take something like Heather the Vampire, which um, one of the bigger viral things that I did early on in the life of the internet, um, is listen, there was already an audience there because of something called Shoes, which was connected to that. But time after time after time, every video that we put out, every vlog that we put out, you know, younger uh, uh, girls, women, gay men, non-binary people would come and go like, I really relate to this character. And so the relatability of the character or connecting with that character is really what needs to come out of, I think, the artist in order to make that particular content last, is buildable, has a life. The idea is great, but it needs to have a life. So, and I'm sorry, Karan, what was your second question?
My second question was, when you look back at the many things that you've created, do
Mhm.
you like it's sort of like this self-therapy, self-awareness.
Yeah,
Do
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
feel like, oh my God, I keep going back to these same themes that
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out like personally that through my work?
It's 100% coming of age. It's
Yeah.
100% coming of age. It's like, um, yeah, I have some sort of arrested development that's happened where where I need to come of age. It's all life stages. So it's dating, it's marriage, it's teenagehood, it's having a kid. It's coming of age, definitely. And that's where I really live in every character. So it's interesting, like when I talk about this project that I have called the Illusion, about this maid in Victorian England, um, that's another sort of coming of age of sort of like dealing with being a woman, right? Dealing with like how many ideas have I put out into the world that somebody has sort of taken and run with that um I can't put my stamp on, right? But so how do I make that work for me in this stage of my life? How do I make, you know, so it's I'm absolutely pulling from my own emotions and my own, stages of life for sure. But that's the theme. Coming of age, hands down.
Hands down, coming of age. I love
Yeah.
it. Okay, so let's get to the nitty-gritty here, Megan, because you've created so much content,
Yeah.
including some incredible viral content and all of your professional gigs along with that. How do you get stuff done? I mean, I just know this is one of the biggest challenges that every writer faces, right? I mean, you can call it writer's block or you can call it procrastination.
Yeah.
Um, you can call it, cleaning the house comes before sitting down with my butt in the chair. How do you get
100%.
so much done?
So okay, so I have a kid now, so I don't get as much done. That's just the fact of life. Like Karan, speaking of coming of age, this is the period of my life where I don't get as much done as I used to do. Um, I look, ADHD helps, don't get me wrong. Like I have a definite hyper focus that I can sit down and if I want to do it, I will do it till it's done. But I will say, when you read a lot about writers who get up in the morning and they eat their breakfast or they do whatever they do, and then the first thing they do is they sit down and they get the content out, right? They just write for 2 hours, 3 hours. I think my maximum, if I'm really being honest, my best outcome in terms of time and doing it is 4 hours, 4 hour chunks. That's about where my brain goes, okay, calm down. Let's do this tomorrow. Now, there are some times again where the hyperfocus jumps in and I'm like 8 hours later, I'm like, what? Who needs dinner? I don't know. Yep, okay. Um, but I think it is not so much, I really do think it's discipline. I mean, Mimi, you said it, I've heard you say this, butts and seats, right? That's it. And as the world gets more distracting, I do find myself getting less inclined to put my butt in a seat. You're just all over the place. Like there's so much just in front of me on my computer, whereas 10 years ago, I would open a computer and turn off my phone and there would be nothing coming at me. So how to do that? Now I'm really saving that energy for when I am paid to have that energy. Um, or if I'm really, really, really into something, right? So it used to be where I would sit down and I'd have like 7 ideas, just kind of, okay, well, let's start here. I'm starting to do that again, though. That's starting to reconnect with my brain as my kid gets older, um, where I'm starting to write down every idea I have and then kind of go through them. But planning, honestly, I swear, get a paper planner just for your ideas. Give yourself a designated amount of time. And then I am also a huge believer. I was just thinking about this yesterday with everything that's going on. Life still has to go on to an extent. Um, but I'm a really big believer in something that I discovered a couple of years ago, which is forced procrastination, which is as opposed to, oh, I'm just sitting here and I'm watching TV and I can't, um, is going, I'm going to spend the next half an hour watching this TV and uh, messing around on my phone for half an hour. I'm giving myself, I'm going to set an alarm, and at the end of this half an hour, I am getting up. And I will tell you, at the end of that forced procrastination period time, you're like, I am sick of doing this. I don't want to sit here anymore. This is boring. So that's really helped me, honestly, is all right, you got 20 minutes to just do whatever you're going to do.
I absolutely love that. That is such a brilliant reversal of the standard psychology, right? Which is
Yeah.
like, get up at 4 a.m., sit down at your computer, write for 2 hours before the
No
kids
way.
get up. Ah.
So that's something too that I can understand. I understand it. I understand the 5 a.m. situation. I do. I get it. Nobody else is up. You're by yourself. If you live with a million people or if you live with your family, I get it. Um, but that's actually, to be fair, that is my oftentimes my forced procrastination time. Like I get up and I make myself breakfast at like 6:15, 6:30, whatever. Anyway, and I will make myself read my book for 10 minutes, eat my breakfast, get dressed, and then by the time my son gets up or my husband gets up, I have just dallied away the morning already. It's been slow and delightful. So,
I love that too.
yeah,
Whatever works, and everybody's different. And Kirana's a late night person, and I'm an early morning person, and so it's like he's not going to get up at 4 a.m. and start writing, but he loves going like after the kids have gone to bed into the wee hours. So I just think whatever it takes. That is one of my favorite quotes. I'm so glad you brought it up, Megan, that I know people who know me have heard me say before is from Nora Roberts, who personally haven't read a ton of her, but famous romance novelist who wrote somewhere like 6 books a year for
yeah,
30 years. I mean, something so incomprehensible.
totally.
And her famous line in this New Yorker article was ass in the chair. And, you can try to wiggle your way around it, and you can use AI now, generative AI, to help. But that doesn't mean that there's ever any substitute for just sitting and doing the work, right?
100%. And I will say, when it comes to that, I know that a blank piece of paper can be scary or a blank screen can be scary. Also, something that I do on the regs is I just give myself permission to just for it to suck, right? Like I just start writing and I'm just like, and then they walked into the pub. And if that's all,
I love that. Love that. Love that. Yeah, it can suck.
it can
It can
suck.
suck.
It can be something totally different. Just do it. Just type, take your little fingers and type.
Fantastic. Tell us, because we only have a few minutes
Yeah.
left. Tell us where we can find you and where some of your favorite stories of your own
Oh my
live, so we
goodness.
can go find them and put them in the chat later. But, tell us what some of your favorite stories are that you have told, master storyteller that you are.
Oh, please. So I think, boy, some of the things I'm most proud of, but definitely Heather, the vampire. Um, it's actually some of the things I'm most proud of haven't come out yet. I'm doing a podcast right now that we're recording the pilot in the next couple weeks, actually. And it's called Hazel Hawk, and I love it. And there's another one that I'm producing called Helen, Nebraska, that I love. So there's stuff coming up. The best way to kind of look at all of this weird content that I make across the board is at my website, which is meganperry.com. Megan spelled weird, Megahn. I mean, that's where everything lives. Um, but yeah, and honestly, there are things that I most love that are on the far corners of the internet that people have never really like enjoyed as much as Heather, or but there's stuff out there. If you Google me, there's a ton of stuff out there. But yeah, I would say Heather the Vampire. I'd say Ex-Boyfriend Jewelry is another one I'm proud of. There's something called Don't Blink that was sold a long time ago that I'm very proud of. All My Boyfriend's Girlfriends is something I'm very proud of. So yeah, I'm
All right.
proud of the stuff I've done.
You
Yeah.
should be. You've done so many amazing things. So Megan Perry with a H. You can see how they're on the screen, but we will also put that out to everyone who is attending live, and we're going to have all of this edited and little sound bites coming out later on YouTube and all kinds. So we will make sure that people know where to find you, Megan. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and sharing some of your incredible storytelling wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And good luck with everything in
Thank you.
LA. Sure,
Thank
it's
you. I'll
going to
keep
be a
you
wild
posted.
time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Megan.
Okay. Bye. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Okay.